Most people organize their world by stories, their family stories, the stories you learn in history or in school are historical stories, and because of the need to put together ideas, stories is the natural human form of communicating, and so that even in societies that haven't a written history, they have an oral history. So the notion of storytelling is completely natural. In the context of a museum, what often happens is that natural human predisposition to tell stories is pushed down, is neutralized. And so one of the things that's important for museums, I think, is to understand the storytelling quality that communicates information. It's how we learn best. So if whether it's natural science or fine arts or history, all are embedded with stories, and for visitors it makes it much easier to relate the information to their personal life, and therefore narrative-based museums seem to communicate better.
Hacer una sala circular para tener un grupo de gente es complejo. Se te dispersan todos, o por eso vos focalizás la atención. Sí,
una cosa,
con las luces, sí.
Pero una cosa es circular así y otra es que tenga divertículos.
Claro.
Que vaya teniendo.
Sí, para él el concepto puede ser envolvente, pero no necesariamente circular.
No,
Sí.
no, por eso.
Porque es cierto, se te agolpan y el de atrás no va a ver nada.
Si vos tenés que tener un acceso a un circular y una salida.
Si vos esto
¿Qué tiene que salir la gente?
Claro.
Para arriba, que entren así.
O sea, le podés dar
Escalera.
de una forma así. Y en algún sector podés.
O por ahí más abierto.
Idea muy borrosa. Tenemos variedades fósiles,
De este gomas todo, ¿qué hay? Hay 3 piezas. Mandíbula inferior con un molar completo, una defensa y un fémur.
This would be a relatively neutral space, but go back to outdoor again. And that diversity, this whole section is outdoor. And then you progress through the outdoors, again back into the lab. And this is probably bigger, but it's all discovery-based learning. It's like you're working in a lab.
What I was thinking is, for example, we can have little bones here, and we have the tools that people use to measure them, or to take the weights, or...
And then you come out of that into a more neutral space, which is just it's not a dinosaur with a background or anything like that. It's looking at the dinosaur as a
part of the collection.
A part of the collection, something to be learned about, because this is all about observation.
Yes, and include the dinosaur is not from here.
Right,
So-
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have a dinosaur, what can we learn from it? Okay. This is a floor plan.
Esta es una planta en rectángulo.
This is called a bubble diagram.
Esto se llama diagrama de burbujas.
It takes the floor plan of the space
Lo que hace es usar la planta del espacio
and the ideas
y las ideas
as circles
como círculos
or bubbles
o burbujas
and puts the two together.
y unirlas.
So you begin to see, is it better to see this idea before this idea?
Entonces lo que pueden hacer es mejor ver cuando la gente ingresa que vea cambios antes que diversidad.
How do ideas relate across?
O cómo se relacionan las ideas entre diversidad y cambios.
How large is this idea
Cuán grande debe ser
compared to this
diversidad
idea?
respecto a la conclusión.
These areas
Esas otras áreas
have interrelationships.
tienen relaciones una con
They're
otra
all connected.
y todas conectadas.
Now we're ready to go to the next step.
Y ahora estamos listos para seguir el paso siguiente,
To decide how the space
para decidir cómo el espacio,
could best fit.
cómo puede encajar mejor.
And in some ways, and that's the difference in discipline, because that's how you think. That's how a designer thinks. You hear something and you say, well, it sounds like a triangle to me. Well, where does that come from? And that transition point is what's difficult. So we as designers need to be able to explain to them why a triangle. Well, it feels like diversity. Diversity feels more like this than like that.
That's okay.
And if they can believe that, then we're okay. They have to trust that, though. Rather than just saying, well, they're all squares. This is a nuts project. Who would ever think you could design an entire exhibition with 20 people in 5 days?
Yes.
Now, what we have to balance that with, though, is that they get something out. I mean, that there's something that they can apply to their own working situation. And that's why I did the drawings with the squares. Because rather than take the space as it's given in the building, change it. What do you need for the exhibition? Think about that first. Whatever shape that might be, and it does, if you can't afford it, you do something else. But you have to start with something.
En general, cuando veo objetos de paleontología exhibidos, es que yo lo primero que siento es que hay una distancia entre el objeto y la persona, ¿no? Los veo como objetos exhibidos detrás de la vitrina y no encuentro la relación que yo pueda tener con el objeto. Eso es una cosa que lo veo mucho en los museos de paleontología. ¿Cuál es mi relación? O sea, yo encuentro este objeto, es gigantesco, existieron, ¿y qué? Está bien, estuvieron acá, me genera cierta admiración la escala, el tamaño, pero ¿cómo puedo asociarlos con hoy? Esa es una pregunta que siempre me hago con estos museos.
What I've seen of museums in Argentina is not unlike what I see in museums in the United States or anywhere else for that matter. It's feeling like the information is the end in itself. That all museums exist for is to hold and collect things, and it's purely about information rather than being about experience. I think that what I've seen in Argentina has more to do with what the specialists know than what they want to communicate to the visitor. And so you see, for example, very commonly collections organized taxonomically. So all of the kitchenware is in one place, and all of the books are in one place, and all of the maps are in one place.
Y en primer lugar habría que ver qué es lo que uno quiere contar, qué es lo que querés que la persona sienta frente al objeto. Formular alguna pregunta, o sea, ¿qué pasó con estos seres en esa época? ¿Cuál es la diferencia? ¿La escala? ¿El que hayan desaparecido? Yo creo que el científico debería bajar un poco más al plano de la gente y poder transmitirle cierta emoción, su propia emoción, la emoción del hallazgo, por ejemplo, y la emoción de la interpretación, de la interrelación, que tal vez a él le ocurra, pero no está bajada a la exhibición. Very nice object here. Yeah. It's a key object. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, the stone?
The worms.
That's
For me, it's
relocation.
a good beginning to talk about the life on the earth.
Yeah. They must have thousands of handling objects also. I mean, to put millions of years old fossil in someone's hand would be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know what to read that. No, I don't know, but I hope it to look Viviana or something.
Since the last time we got together in Mar del Plata, the site of the exhibition has changed to La Plata. Yeah. Now, this institution is a nationally respected, large institution. The exhibition now will serve as an introduction for everyone to the whole museum, to the ideas of science and to the passion that scientists have. And this is a particularly interesting place to work because of the passion of the important scientists that worked here, Moreno and others. And we hope that the exhibition can ignite in visitors that same interest and passion in science that people all through the years have had and are represented in this museum.
En el caso concreto de Mar del Plata, el museo no estuvo en condiciones de cumplir lo pactado, que era que recaudar fondos necesarios para complementar los que la Fundación Antorchas y la Fundación Bungibón y el Smithsonian habían aportado y estaban dispuestos a seguir aportando al proyecto. Es decir, en todos los casos se busca que los museos que se benefician de proyectos de este tipo hagan su propia contribución y en el sentido de que tengan recursos de gerenciamiento como para procurar fondos de otra índole. De esta manera es una doble enseñanza para el museo. Por un lado, mejorar sus instalaciones, sus exhibiciones, la conservación de sus muestras, pero a la vez mejorar las condiciones de gerenciamiento del museo. Estos son los dos objetivos que tenemos con esto. En este caso simplemente llegamos al punto en que era necesario ordenar el presupuesto, armar la exposición y la Municipalidad de Mar del Plata no mostró interés en aportar tanto o algo que estuviera en relación con lo aportado por las fundaciones Antorchas, Bungibón y el Smithsonian. Entonces decidimos pasarnos a otro museo, que fue el caso del Museo de la Plata.
También es fortalecer algo acá. Cómo una idea, una hipótesis, termina pasando a teoría cuando hay, en definitiva, es un método científico, sin decir que es eso.
There are two groups of people working on this project. The first are the scientists of this museum who have worked on developing ideas, developing a sequence of ideas that have to do with change and diversity. The participants themselves, though, have had the opportunity to really work with and develop the translating of ideas from ideas into real objects, real interactives, real environments, and they're now beginning to do that intuitively, which is the big change. So when you get a piece of information, you say, well, could be this, and that's how people could connect to it. That's a big shift. And hopefully the next time they work on an exhibition in their own institution, their first thought will be, not what is it that I know, but how can I connect what I know to someone else? And that's the biggest shift. Tom will be making the final construction drawings.
Tam va a estar haciendo los dibujos de construcción, ya finalizándolos.
So they can be handed to a builder.
De manera tal que pueden ser entregados a la persona que los va a construir.
We'll also at that time order what we call the long lead items.
Y en ese momento también se van a encargar los materiales que llevan tiempo en ser conseguidos.
No hay exhibición perfecta, no hay diseño final, ¿viste? Uno en algún momento tiene que decir basta.
Tenemos muchísimas oportunidades de usar la curiosidad, porque nuestra profesión nos ha enseñado, si somos epidemiólogos.
Para aprovechar los beneficios de los volcanes. C, porque la gente ignora los peligros de vivir cerca de los volcanes. Correcto.
A pesar de ser muy arriesgado.
No había capa de ozono. Las temperaturas reinantes eran altísimas. Gradualmente la Tierra se fue enfriando y todo comenzó a cambiar. La litosfera se fue solidificando.
So that's one set of issues. The other set of issues, I think, has to do with museums not looking to be relevant. In other words, they'll create an exhibition or a permanent installation and it's done forever. The world doesn't operate that way either. The world changes, especially in the science museum. Science happens every day. And so to have the museum be entirely static is not a reflection of the real world. The other piece, the third piece that comes into play is that part of the change in the world is a technologic change. So what's happening is that visitors are becoming much more sophisticated in what they know about the rest of the world. So their expectation for the museums are rising. Museums need to match that expectation, or they will remain irrelevant. And so that as people go on the internet, as people see what's happening in other parts of the world and so forth, which is now very easy to do and very common, that global awareness needs to find a place in the museum, or they will remain as a sort of backwater, oh, it would be good for us if we went to the museum. That kind of an attitude will continue, rather than it being seen as a vital reflection of who we are or where we came from. In Argentina, as in many places, that need to find ways to be relevant, to find ways to be engaging, is probably the biggest lack. Not just in museums here, but in museums in general. They tend to think of themselves as these isolated islands of culture, when in fact they're not at all, because as visitors come in, they're bringing the world in with them, and if they don't see that world reflected in the museum, then they're simply not relevant.